Need more money, connections, associations, and what you would call a relaxed mind? Have you ever wondered why some folks are regarded as high flyers and successful people with results to show? You know the names. It's been found out that the difference between these high flyers and successful people is mindsets and how they think. Welcome to Baseline Beats with Benga. Here is this week's episode.
Have you ever come across a picture that has a number drawn on the floor with two people standing on either side of the number? One person sees a 6 and the other sees a 9. Well, they are both right, yet they are wrong in the eyes of the other person because of their particular perspective to life. They could either stand there arguing and holding on to their idea of what the number is, or they could turn around and see the difference in their thoughts. This is perspective, and it's powerful. I am Benga, your friend. Now, today's theme should hit you differently, as you should have guessed by now. The focus is on perspective. Some would say attitude. The late Hilary Hinton, popularly known as Zig Ziglar, who was an author, salesman, and motivational speaker, said while he was alive, "It's your attitude, not aptitude, that will determine your altitude." He was right, and that is very correct. Doug Baldwin, a former American football wide receiver who played for the Seattle Seahawks, said something profound. He said, "The greatest tragedy for any human being is going through their entire lives believing the only perspective that matters is their own." And this is equally true. Let me share with you a Hindu fictional story here. One day, Lord Indra got upset with farmers and declared a 12-year drought. There would be no rain and farmers would not be able to reap crops. Farmers begged Lord Indra for mercy, who said it would rain if Lord Shiva played his damru. A damru is a small two-headed drum used in Hinduism and Tibetan Buddhism. Nigerians of Yoruba origin can think about what they call gong. Back to the story now. Secretly, Lord Indra requested Shiva not to give in to the farmers' pleas. When the farmers approached Lord Shiva, he stated that he wouldn't play the damru for the next 12 years. Apparently, Lord Indra's plea with Lord Shiva worked, so the farmers had no choice but to wait. One farmer, however, kept digging, treating the soil, and sowing seeds. Other farmers laughed at him. After 3 years, they asked this farmer, "Why do you waste your time and energy when you know it won't rain for the next 9 years?" "I know we cannot harvest crops," he said, "but if I sit around, I'll forget the process of growing crops. I must keep practicing, so I'm fit to produce crops the moment it rains." Goddess Parvati heard this and was pleased. She shared it with her husband, Lord Shiva, and said, "You might also forget playing the damru after 12 years. The innocent Lord Shiva tried to play the damru to check whether he still remembered it. The result was immediate rain. Needless to say, the farmer who regularly tilled his field got rewarded with a bounty of crops, while the others scampered to dig their fields and search for seeds to sow. You see how that farmer's perspective was rewarded just because he refused to lounge around. You would allow me to catch my breath some at this point. Let's hear Shine by Johnny Drill. Don't go nowhere.
Have you seen the sun? Have you seen the moon? They are shining light for you. And have you seen the stars shining in the dark? 'Cause God is still watching you. Life is beautiful, however you choose. Be grateful for life. Love is beautiful whenever I'm with you. What a time to be alive. In no matter the condition, believe in your heart and you go there alright. No forget say after rainfall and after the dark the sun goes shine. in her mother's eyes when she holds her little one. And have you seen the joy in a father's pride in a son he truly loves? Wherever you go, remember, make it shine your light, reach December, never lose yours.
I should appreciate you for staying here. You see, the world would be a better place if people understood a perspective on life can be molded, changed, or explained. A lot of quarrels, battles, and wars could have been avoided if people saw things from another person's perspective. Better, empathetic, and more responsible adults would be raised if children are taught what perspective is, the importance it has, and why a given perspective on life may have to be altered when faced with new information. So then, what should be your perspective? How can you improve it as the case is? You see, in this life, few things are absolutely right or wrong. What usually, and I'm saying usually not always, obtains is that there are two different perspectives on one thing. You find that people even get to say that there are two sides to a coin. Well, depending on what issue you're looking at, because some other point in time or at some other point in time, you'd realize that if you take some other positions, you find out that it might be more than two, which is why I said usually, not always. Your perspective to life determines how you relate to people, how you handle relationships and troubles, and how you live every single day. And the understanding of perspectives would allow you to, as the case is, choose the battles you want to fight. Choose the quarrels you want to enter into, because at that point in time, you're not exactly about what is right or wrong, but like the example I gave before the music break, those two people are seeing the same figure written down, but from two different perspectives. And so, for the most part, it's not going to be about who is right or wrong, but trying to understand from the other person's perspective. Changing your perspective is an active decision you have to make intentionally and continually. And that's very important to say again. You see, changing your perspective has to be an intentional thing and something you do continuously. How do you do this? How do you get to have what we can term the right perspective? How do you change wrong perspectives to right ones? How do you get to see from the other person's position and point of view? I'll state some few points here. First off, stop complaining. Complaining shows a perspective of helplessness. A perspective of this can never be changed. A laid-back perspective. I love those who always find a way, who don't stay there whining and complaining. The mentality should be, there has to be a way. I learned some things a few years ago at a certain training that I was part of at the time, that the view that is most important is the one I have for myself. In other words, every other person could think about me in a certain way, which might be correct, which would also mean that you should find a way to change those and factor those perspectives in. But at some other point in time, the perspective they have about you might be wrong. And so, what will now be the most important perspective? That has to be your perspective. How do you see yourself? How do you view your actions? How do you sense and relate as regards your potential to things you think you can do, or what some others have said that you cannot do? The story of Thomas Alva Edison, who invented the electric bulb. He got it right at the 10,000th attempt. Think about that. Wanting to achieve a particular result and going about that thing 10,000 times. That's huge. For the most part, those who start out in this path would have given up, tried about 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. Maybe you have some certain metal, you go 50, 100 times. But to do or want to achieve a result, and you'd have to try again and again. You go this route, it's not working. You take another route and it's not working. And for such people, complaining is not an option. It's just about the fact that I don't want to stay here and have a self-pity party, but I just want to get the results that would accrue. If I stop complaining, then that is possible. The next point you should note is this: be positive in your thinking. You see, you should be upbeat about life. Whenever you're constantly brooding and thinking negatively, your perspective will never change. Some even go to the extent of harming themselves, and they hang around those who have these negative perspectives about them. You're not helping yourself that way by hanging around and staying in environments that would put you down, that would not make you think positively. You need to get out of such environments. Negative thinking on its own has a negative amount of energy, and it's going to keep you where you are. But if you begin to think positively, you think impossible is nothing, for instance, and want to find a way to ensure that you get what it is you want to get done. Next point is that you should realize that things are not always about you. So stop assuming what others think. You see, get out of the all about me mode. It's limiting. I have challenges with those who think life is about them or everything revolves around them, and if they're not part of any decision-making process or they're not part of any forum, then it cannot hold, or it should not hold. But that's wrong, because that is a limited perspective to life. When you realize that you are a part of the sum total, of course your input is going to count and be very important, but ultimately it's about the bigger picture, which would always not be about you, but about what the team wants to achieve and what it wants to be about. It will even affect how people want to relate with you. For what it's worth, the world has over 7 billion people. Let that sink in. The world is not just about you. So relax, take a chill pill. Don't, as some would put it in my local parlance here, tight the world to your chest. Relax, okay? Don't get worked up. Just take it one day at a time and ensure, of course, play your part and ensure that you do that, but ultimately take the focus off of yourself. I recall that at some certain point in time, I had challenges with some certain stuff that I was going through at the point in time, and I felt okay, everyone was going to be looking at me in a certain way, like, this guy, he isn't serious and all of that. But I had to jerk myself back to the right perspective, that these individuals that I think are all about me also have challenges they're going through, and so chances are, and it's a very high chance, they are not thinking about me because they also have problems of their own sleeves that they have to settle. So ensure and realize that things are not always about you. Finally, be grateful. Like it or not, your situation is not the most dire. Only if you take time to think about it, there is always something to be grateful for. I recall seeing a certain tweet recently where someone who has no limbs made reference to how he was grateful that being alive was enough to be thankful for. And that's pretty huge. And you see people going around how they don't have these or that, or they've not achieved these or that. But meanwhile, if you think about it, you're better off some people, no matter how bad you think your situation is. So be grateful. I love feedbacks and want to hear your success story. Share them with me via social media at Ben_Olugbenga. You can do that via Twitter or Instagram as the case is. Do have a great day full of positive attitudes and perspectives.
Baseline Beats with Benga is a wrap for this week. For For questions, concerns, and feedback, reach him on Twitter and Instagram at Ben_Olugbenga. Until Baseline Beats with Benga comes away again next week, keep winning and enjoy the rest of the week.